Hey crew, what's going on? We're live today again with some live design, but today we're going to be doing actually some backend stuff because I have a few projects on the go that I do need some support ticket or messaging or contact to go live, and I'm going to be updating sort of this page here to allow people to contact the website admin. The important piece, I think, of this is because if you're starting to build out an app, there's a certain expectation of users these days about the level of polish that they want on their applications. And it's always important, if you're not able to provide that, which is not a big deal, to tell them that you're consistently improving and taking their ideas and suggestions into account. So that's what I'm sort of doing here. And we're going to allow our users to send us messages. And I've set up the, oh no. Oops. I've set up a quick Trello board here. The layout's going to be a page instead of a pop-up in this case. We're going to be able to start a ticket, cancel it, and we're going to auto-grab the user, the URL, the ticket number, if possible. So that's going to be incoming from the page where they click on the debugging. And the user can add a message and upload a screenshot and then submits the ticket. And then the user will receive an email, and also the admin will receive an email. And it'll sort of open up a channel of conversation between the admin and the user. And we're going to have simple messaging, just 2 columns, and I'm going to do it sort of like WhatsApp. And this is something that I've never tried this layout, so it's going to be interesting. And it's going to create sort of a conversation thread, and we're going to review the privacy rules, and then we're going to set up as a bonus an API workflow that notifies both the admin and the user if the email hasn't been answered within 15 minutes. If the message on the app hasn't been answered within 15 minutes, we're going to send 1 email saying we have a notification. Okay. Before I get super started, I do want to basically set up my live chat. If you guys want to talk to me, I have a new setup here. So if you'll bear with me for a half second, I'm just going to pass this along to myself on my other device so I can read the live chat while we're doing it. I set it up for low latency this time. Just so you guys could talk to me in real time. And yeah, we're going to be checking that out today. Except I should have done this before I started the actual stream. So I hope you'll be able to forgive me. And if you're on the chat, please do say hi so I can see that it's working. I can see that there's a few of you on already. That's crazy. More actually than I've ever had. on a stream before. Okay, either way, you're probably ready to get started. So what we have is a contact page, and I showed you the preview here. And this is sort of where I'll be building it out. So the idea, and I can't show you this because it's part of a live app, not a live app, but an app that already exists. I have basically a header menu, but the client did ask that I do not show the name of the company or anything that would be identifying. So I'm going to rebuild this here, and it's basically just a picture, roundness 100, background style. Let's grab an image, and I'm just going to upload the image of someone, but it's basically going to be the user themselves, and I don't want to go through the trouble of setting that up right now, so I'll just leave that here. And then I have a focus group, that comes up here. So we're going to do a offset left of -100, and an offset top of the 41 that is the size of this picture, and then we're going to reference it to the actual picture itself, which is a group, and I forgot which one it was. It's C. Okay. No, sorry, 0. We don't need the 41. And then I'm just going to drag this back in to here, and we should have a 100 width or 141 width group focus, and then we're going to put submit a bug here. And the reason I'm doing this bug report. And the reason I'm doing this right now is just so that I'm able to see, just a moment, I'm trying to do too many things at once and it's going to get confusing. Live streams are hard, very, very hard. All right, and we're up. And the reason I'm doing this right now. Hey, okay, so we have people talking on the chat. Hello, hey man, hey Slan, hey Hitchamy, and from Paris, bonjour, la ville des lumières. Louis, shh. Sorry about my dog. It's quarantine, so I don't have very many options for where I can do this. Okay, submit a bug report. Basically, this is going to bring us from anywhere in the header to either a pop-up or to this page right here, and it's going to log the URL and the user who's going to be submitting the ticket and creating the ticket. So now we have to go into our database design. So let's go to Data tab, and we're going to add a brand new type that's called a support ticket, okay? And I'm going to run through everything I want in terms of data and set it up right away before I do my layout. Now the support ticket is going to have the most important thing I think about the support ticket is that it needs a unique ID, which is automatically generated by Bubble when you create something, right? And support ticket, we're going to add also a allowed user list. And what that's going to allow us to do is to only show this data field to people who should be allowed to see it, right? So we're going to go all the way down to the users. Where is it? I should be able to type it in here. No, they don't have that yet. So we're going to find user. Where is it? Is it all the way on the top? Yes. User. And we're going to make it multiple entries. And I'm going to show you how to allow different users to be able to see different types of data and lock it to everybody else. So let's go to the privacy tab to do that. And let's select our brand new created support ticket thing. And we're going to define a new role so that we can lock the data from everybody except for those who need to be able to see it, right? So we're going to go allowed. I noticed you use underscores instead of spaces in your data field names. Is that important? I think it's less important than it ever was because a lot of people are adding handlers to deal with spaces. It's just that in URLs, you can't have a space, and in different places, you can't have spaces. So if I want to send that to myself in another system, the underscore is likely to always work, whereas the space may break something if you're trying to do stuff that's too complex. In Bubble itself, because Bubble allows spaces in their naming conventions, you should be allowed to use spaces in any instance within Bubble itself. I just use the underscore for my own. It's just a habit, I guess. Current user, and then we're gonna have, I have something called roles for each of my user, and I say contains 0. If it contains 0, that's my super user, and I'm going to allow these users to see everything. And then we wanted to go sender. I didn't want allowed. I wanted to write admin here, and I wanted to go sender. And the sender is this support ticket's creator's creator is current user. And then when the creator is current user, you can see everything as well. And everybody else who may stumble upon this data type, we don't want them seeing any of the content. We don't want them finding it in searches, and we don't want them seeing the files that are attached to it. And so we're going to unclick that. Now you can see that with these two very simple rules, we've actually limited any support tickets from being seen by people who aren't supposed to see them, right? And if anybody has any kind of experiences with crypto or backend security and such, it would be really cool if you could weigh in for the community and talk about this particular rule here. I think it's robust, especially if your current user, the only users who could see the roles, the role field would be current user is this user, then it should work, right? So let me know if you have any experience with that. Especially I'm looking at you Bubble people who may be watching this. Next, we have now we have our user type, and we have to create the actual thing. So I put this in so that I could create it relatively quickly, and I can go data, create a new thing, and I can go support ticket. So when I click on that, I'm going to create a new support ticket, and I'm going to add a new field, okay? And the new field will automatically log a number of things. If you're familiar with Bubble, it's going to basically create where's the support ticket? Right here. And it's going to say allowed, it's going to create with a creator, a modified date, and a created date immediately. So now we know who the creator is. And the allowed user list, I added this because, yeah, I was gonna allow multiple admins, but the actual role works, so I don't need this anymore. Okay, the next things we need is attached files. And this is going to allow us to attach different images or different PDFs or different other different types of files to the actual support ticket. And a lot of people will think that you need to select an image for it to be an image, but that's not the actual case, because the file gets uploaded to the AWS and gets returned, and Bubble deals with the file type that way. But if it's an image, you just need the link of an image, so .png, .jpeg at the end of your file name, to be able to load it in as an image, even if it's a file that's been uploaded. So I've taken to uploading everything as files, because you can attach them privately. I don't suggest you do this or not. There's in my experience, there's no particular way that's better than the other to do it. I just like to use file so that I can have only one type, one field in my data type that contains images and PDFs and whatever. And when I display them differently instead of logging them differently on the upload. Okay, and that also allows me to use the multi-file uploader. So I like that. So we're going to call this files. These will be the attached files. We're going to make them a list right away, and it's going to be it's going to work. Let's see. Write better ads. Hey, a bit off topic, but how did you get started with Bubble? From 2018. Better app concept, but okay. I got into Bubble when I had an idea, and I brought it to some investors. I was working in the entrepreneurship field in the educational, in post-secondary institutions. And as a young entrepreneur myself, I got to meet a lot of people who were like ready to invest and such. So I started speaking to them about my idea, and they said, how much money do you need? This is a great idea. And it was a great idea. Basically, Airbnb did the same thing. It was Airbnb Experiences before Airbnb Experiences was launched. So they had suggested that I find out how much I needed. And when I basically started getting quotes from agencies, they were far beyond what I thought I could pay for this. So I started looking for tools where I could develop myself. I tried a few different tools. Anyway, my story is somewhere on the forum. You can go check it out. I'm not going to go on a long tangent here, but basically when I found this, I thought this is such a great tool that I absolutely need to learn how to use it. And so that's what I did. All right. I hope that answers your question. If not, just drop me something in the chat. And we're going to go to see where I have a GIF that I downloaded from Dribbble. I'll put a link in the description if I can after, but I downloaded it here, and I would like to basically put it in here just to give it a little bit of a nicer feel. It's uploading right now. Okay, and this is a GIF. I don't know if it's actually going to show up when I hit preview as a GIF, but I uploaded an image element. Usually when I do these live streams, it's active learning for me, so I like to, it does show up. Perfect. That's what I thought, but I couldn't quite remember. Okay, next we need a number of inputs for our contact form, and we're going to put in the fields first and then build the inputs out for it. And we know that we need a name and an email for people who aren't signed in. Okay, so in contact, sometimes people will be signed in, sometimes no. If they are signed in, I want to pre-populate this data and make it unchangeable. And if they are not signed in, I basically want to allow them, my user, to add a name, an email, and the basic things that Bubble will pre-populate. So here's a name, here's an email where we can reach you. Consistency, we want to keep this all caps. And email, and then we want like a message, right? And it's contact forms are very simple, and that's why I thought this would be a good thing to show you guys. And then we're just going to add some inputs. I'm not going to style them today because I definitely want to make sure that we keep this short and sweet, and it's already quite a bit of work what we're going to be trying to be building out, so I'm not going to style anything in this particular tutorial. Here I would normally use a multi-line input, but for the aforementioned reasons I won't. Let's go and give them a little bit of padding. There's different ways to do your padding. In this case, my body small is centered vertically. If I remove the style, you'll see that center of the text vertically. And my favorite way to build is to give it the padding first and then use all same size elements. But since these are inputs, I'm not able to do that. Since I want the name to be really, really close to my input, I would usually remove the center of the text vertically, and I'll stick to the top. And then I'll bring it to exactly where the line is here. And unfortunately, if I do this and I go and I copy these over, I have to give them manual padding like this. I don't know if that made sense to you guys, but you want to keep consistency in your margins. That's what's going to make your designs look as professional as possible. Okay. So now we have name, email, and message, and we're done. And then we're not quite done yet because we want a category as well. Okay. This message here is quite important in terms of telling people that you're not completely finished developing your app, and you can use bugs, important suggestions, and support requests. But those are three basically different categories for bug suggestions and support requests for your contact. And as an admin, I want to know what kind, and I want to be able to sort between what kind of messages I've received. So I'm going to add a category that I can use in each of my support tickets. And the best way to do that is option sets, because these are, they allow you to add different options, and these are loaded as constants. So much faster than going into the app data, the database itself, to load the data. You can load options very, very, very quickly on a page. So these are wonderful, with the caveat that they're a little bit more tricky to filter, and they have a few less features, of course, but I assume Bubble will be working on them. And hello from Ecuador. Hola, ¿qué tal, amigo? Desde Ecuador. And I'm thinking of maybe starting to practice my Spanish and make different tutorials in Spanish. So if you guys think that would be fun and you guys are willing to look over and correct my Spanish as well, let me know in the chat, and we'll definitely get a few of those out for you when I can find the time. So we were saying option sets. We're going to go with category for support ticket. Okay, and we're going to create that. And then we're going to have three options. They all come with one attribute pre-built, and it's called a display, but you can add new attributes as you want. So you can add dynamic attributes, or they could be text, numbers. You can bind images or whatever to your option sets, just as if you were creating a new data type. The biggest difference is that if you change these, it changes the whole app. And what I mean by that is, if I refresh this page and I have somebody logged in and working here, I can't actually change the option sets without the whole app itself changing. So if I go here bug, and I go here help, and I go, what was the third kind? Bug suggestion. You'll notice that when I go to my actual page here, I have to refresh it again. Okay, so you can't update these in real time. They have to be updated. They have to be updated and then you have to refresh the page before they show up. Oh, and from Spain, Christian, thanks so much. Yes, I think it would be a productive way to practice my Spanish, which I know I still need a lot of help with. So yeah, if you guys are willing to do that, I will definitely post some stuff in Spanish so that you guys can not make fun of me too much as you correct my Spanish. But I promise it'll be entertaining. A couple of chuckles for you guys. So here's a button for the actual submission of the support ticket. Okay, and now I want to do something a little funky here. I had an idea for the submit a bug, but I think I'll just create it on the submission button because I forgot where I was going initially. Which is what I mean. It's very important. This is a very high level, I guess, outlining of my plan for what I want to do. Usually these will be a lot more complex, but without a good plan, layout page, I would have user clicks on this top right, and then user clicks on bug report, pop-up comes up, etc., etc. But in our case, we're just going to keep it simple here and create it this way. Okay. So then my submission button will gather the name, the email, and the message, and then we just want this to be pre-populated if the user is logged in. So let's go here and let's go conditional 2, and we can keep these styling conditionals, but we're going to go when current user is logged in. We can just type that is logged in. And then I'm actually going to come here and go to grid and borders, and I'm going to lock my property editor to the right here so that it's out of the way from my design and I can see it all. And we're going to click here and we're going to go current user is logged in, and we're going to change this conditional. We're going to say this input is disabled, yes. And then we're also going to say initial content is going to be current user. And in this app's case, I'm using a user profile for public data, which is a different data type, and I'm linking it to each user. And I'm going to say name, and then current user is users profiles, name last. And a lot of people ask me why I split between users and user profiles. And the reason I do that is because it's easier to manage the privacy between the users' private data, like their email and stuff that only them and the admins should see, and public data, which them, the admins, and everybody else who's on the app should see. Okay, so we're going to load those in, and then email is going to be define another condition, and we're actually just going to copy this, and then we're going to paste it in here. We're going to remove the one I created, and we're going to say user profiles email, right? No, it's not user profile, right? Because I said the private stuff, like email, is under current user. Yeah, like you saw PayPal email, that's something that only the user and the admin should see, so it's in here. And also disable the input so that they can't change it, right? So, and then in message, then we definitely want them to be able to update that. And on submission, we want all of that stuff to be logged. So let's go element actions. We're going to go create a new thing. And this is the easy part. You just go support ticket, right? We're going to create a new one. We're going to go allowed user list. No, that should be gone. I have to refresh the page. Files, no, we don't need that. But we do need in the data type a new thing called, we want category. And that's going to be from the option sets. Okay, and the option sets show up. So usually what happens is all of your data is on the bottom here, and all of your option sets start right here. So we have campaign category support ticket. It can only have one category, so we're going to leave it that way. And then we're going to go message, and then we're going to go field type, and we're going to go with text, and then yeah. And then we're going to go design, and we're going to force them to pick from the drop down category for these. I actually want them to pick the categories up here. From Ghana. Hey Yuffie. From Ghana. I've never actually been to Africa. I would like to go, and quite a few of the people that I work with actually that approach me are African, and true entrepreneurial spirit. I'm really impressed by the go get them attitude that I've seen in my African clients. So I'm assuming you're starting a business. Do you want to share with us sort of what you're working on? And meanwhile, here we're going to go select category, and we're going to go drop down. Drop downs are easy. We're going to put that here, and from the drop down we're going to select a dynamic list, and we're going to go placeholder. Yeah, you know what? I don't want a placeholder. I want type of choice. We're going to find that category again for the support tickets. And then we're going to go option caption is current options display. And the choice source is get an option and category support ticket. And we're going to grab all of them. So if this makes sense to you, basically all I did is place a dynamic drop down from which I pull all of the different options that I previously created for category support tickets, so bug, help, suggestion, and then those are going to pre-populate in the drop-down here, and in the drop-down we're going to get basically the display, and then the default value. I don't really want a default value, but it shouldn't be empty, so I guess we're going to just grab bug or help. There you go. So now they'll be able to select that, and we're going to go submission start edit workflow. And we're going to go create a new support ticket, and we're going to go, the category is going to be drop downs value. And then we're going to go message is going to be which one is it? C, right? Yep. We have, can you do a series where you like build basic version of different apps using Bubble, like what you would leave out or add to make it better? Wow, that's a hell of a question. Can you do a series where you build basic version of different apps using Bubble? Okay, so you're asking a question that is so important. So I'm going to take the time to address it a little bit. So when you're building an MVP, it's minimum viable. So you have to ask yourself that question, and more importantly than that, even you have to ask your users that question. So early alpha users, what do you absolutely need? Because as an entrepreneur, you're going to come up and you're going to want to provide as much value as possible, right? You think you need all that value immediately to be able to give your user. I think it's very important to get feedback externally when you're building a minimum viable product. So you just start with the basics that you can find anywhere. Usually it's so in business, there's a theory in business to business, and when you're looking at your competition, in order to remain competitive, you're going to do two things. You're going to look at parity with the competition, and when I say parity, I don't mean a parody, I mean parity. And parity means you're going to offer the same things that all of your competitors offer. So when you're doing your market research, before you even start laying down your idea, before you even start building your app, you look at your competitors and you want to offer everything they offer at the same time, right? And that's your parity with the competition. And then you have to offer some plus value somehow. And the plus value is going to be what draws your client to your app instead of somebody else's. So your minimum viable should be your parity. So you look at all what your competition offers and you make a list of what everyone offers, and that's usually what your minimum is. Okay, so you can set up a simple table with all of your competitors and all of the features that you learn, and then that you see on their sites or in their apps, and then you take all of the stuff that everyone has and you make sure that's in your app. Okay, that's the minimum that you absolutely need, because if all of your competition has it, in order to remain competitive, you probably need it as well. And then you work on your plus value, right? So I hope that answers your question. Can I do a series? I don't know if I can do a series of building basic versions of different apps, because these things take a while, and I don't, they're not part of usually what I do for a living. I'm just doing these for you guys, and I've already been struggling. This month has been absolutely crazy. I've had my fair share of bad luck for a few years, I think. So I'm doing this because I haven't posted since February, and I just want you guys to know that I haven't forgotten about you, but right now it's a little bit difficult for me to be posting stuff. Okay, let's get back to work. Now we're looking at name and email, and when we first created our data type for a support ticket, we had a category files message, and I said the creator will be automatically generated, yes, but what if the user is logged out? So we're going to go name placeholder, and that should not have been caps, but I'll leave it caps for now. And the name placeholder will be only used if the user is logged out. So we can go here, workflow, and we can add it. Message is input C's value, and name placeholder is, I think that's input A's value. And then we're going to have email placeholder as well. And email placeholder will also take the email from our input, which I forgot to make sure was an email and should not be empty, okay? And somehow, like, you want to say, in your UX, you're going to say this field is required if they didn't fill it out and they press submit or whatever, but I'm not doing that today. Today we're just storing it and sending it, right? So create a new support ticket name placeholder, then we have email placeholder, and we're going to send input B's value, okay? So now we basically have created a support ticket, and we do want something that's a little bit easier to understand than Bubble's unique IDs, because I think Bubble's unique IDs have to be unique across apps, okay? So we're looking at, if we go to app data and we just pick this user here, this is what a unique ID looks like, okay? And I haven't counted the number of characters, but there are quite a few. And if you know that I think six characters is like 2 billion possibilities, alphanumerical anyways, with caps and lowercase. then this is a lot of possibilities, a lot, and we don't need that many, and it's a little bit hard to read for our user. So we're going to go here and we're going to say we're going to generate our own unique ID that our users can read, and this is the fun part. You might want to do this for a lot of stuff like posts, or you might want to do this for different users or pictures or whatever data type you create. You might want to create your own unique ID so that it's not quite as long as bubbles. And the way that you do that is you come here, set another field. We'll create it here instead, and we're going to go with hotlink. That's just the name I use for my unique IDs because unique ID is already taken. It's going to be text, and then here we're just going to calculate a formula. We're going to say, hey, give me a generate random string, and the length of characters will be 6, just because in this case. And sometimes you can say generate different lengths of hotlinks, and then you can notice which data type it is just by the length of the characters in your generated hotlinks. So you could have 6 for a post, 7 for a user, 8 for a message, or whatever, and you can actually figure out what type it is that way without having an extra field. So we're going to use just letters and numbers here. For 6 should be fine. We're going to close that, and then it's going to generate a hotlink. So let's go ahead and try out our first thing and generate our very first. This says there's an issue. Yeah, we don't need this anymore. Now we're going to have to refresh. Okay, so I'm running this as super, and you'll notice that my inputs are now filled in. My name is super, and then my last name is super. So I can't click on this input, and that's exactly what I wanted. I do want this grayed out a little bit, but like I said, I'm not doing styling. Now let's say I click on bug, and I add a message, I found a bug, and I submit it. That's not it. We found a bug in bubble because that's not empty. That's pre-populated. Is it initial content or placeholder that I used? Maybe that's my problem here. Let's go email condition. Yeah. That's okay. Do we have to say, yeah, we can do this here. This input should not be empty. Uncheck if the current user is logged in. But that's weird by bubble. They should have actually, this should be considered full. Some comments here. We just spoke on the forum. Oh yes, I remember you. The job board, right? Yeah, I looked at your request. It's a little bit more complicated, I think, than you think, especially when you're sorting by three different categories. It's definitely possible, but I think that's a little bit more detail than I can write in a text. I think I need to do a full tutorial for that. So yeah, I have like an 8 or 9 video backlog, so and a lot of work right now. So maybe, hopefully, eventually. My project is an inspections app. Have you seen apps with form builders in Bubble? Plenty, lots. From HVAC to contract bidding to form builders. I know somebody built a quiz app. It's available in the templates. I don't know if it was free. I think it was a free one, a free quiz builder app. So go ahead and check it out. Do you have a favorite place to test an MVP? I've never personally tested any of my MVPs. I know some people have used Mechanical Turks with varying degrees of success, and user testing as well are the only 2 apps that I'm familiar with that do that kind of testing. But I do know that Bubble has an actual A/B testing app, and if I can find it, I'll post it in the description. It was on Product Hunt. It gives you quick, rapid A/B validation. So I could show this screen with this GIF, and I could show a different image, and I could submit it to them, and they're gonna ask 100 users. I forget, was it Gwolfer? It's somewhere on the forum. If you guys look for A/B testing on the forum, you'll see they did it for a hackathon and sort of grew it from there. It's a really cool idea. All right. Yeah, so those would be the 2 places I think that I would test the MVPs if I needed to. So now this should work, right? Let's go step by step just to make sure. Hey. Bubble. So this input should not be empty is checked, and this input is disabled is unchecked. Oh, it's because they're inputs? Okay. I think It may be because the inputs are actually better at figuring out what a real email is rather than the actual creating. So when I create a user for testing, I'll just go to data types and app data, and I'll click on my data type and I'll click on new entry. And when I create a new user, you could do anything you want. You could do this. You know, it doesn't even need to be an actual. You could do .x and it should work, right? Oh no, that's not valid. Okay, x doesn't work, but this should work and this should work here. I'm not exactly sure what's happening. Why? It's proving to be difficult. Like, this is the first time I've run into this actually. Okay, so let's remove this conditional, and let's remove this conditional and this conditional, and when I figure it out, I'll either do an update to the video or let you guys know. Now I hit just basic preview. I shouldn't be logged in. Oh, I am logged in. Okay, and message ASDF and what? Isn't valid. That's valid. Okay, so now we have our, it's an actual valid email address, and we have a hot link. It's generated, and it should be drop-down's value, which is help, and the message should be ASDF. Okay, so let's go check it out in our data tab, app data, and let's go to all of our support tickets, and we should have a new one. There it is, category help. Here's the email from the user that was sent, the name placeholder from the user that was sent. There are no files. Here's our hot link, OHBFJJ, and our message ASDF. Okay, so that works, and we have our first support ticket. Now we just need to push it to the admin, but before we do that, we need to allow uploading of files and the checking of the hot link, because this is not necessarily unique. There is a 1 in X chance that this is the exact same one as one that already exists. So I'll show you how to do a loop in the backend workflows really quickly. We're gonna go here, we're gonna go this, and we're gonna go backend workflows, sorry. First I'll duplicate this tab. I like having both of them open, and we have too many of these open. So here we're going to go backend workflows, and our backend workflows, we're going to create a new one. And if they're not enabled yet, you have to go to settings, you have to go to API, and you have to go to here and expose your backend workflows. And once you have that done, you can create a new API endpoint. That API endpoint can be update. I don't want it public, I don't need that. I can ignore privacy rules. This is, I'm going to talk about this in just a second after I choose a name. Update, hot link, and it was support ticket. Okay, so this one will update the hot link support ticket, and now it's not public because I'm not going to be calling it from outside of the app, and it can be run without authentication. It doesn't need to because all the users will be authenticated directly by the Bubble app. We're going to ignore privacy rules. Ignoring privacy rules is important because we did set them up. So if you're not an admin and you update it, then actually we won't need it because every creator is able to see their own created app due to our privacy rules, so we don't need to ignore them. Ignoring them is useful when a user who shouldn't be able to modify data needs to, and you can come in here and ignore the privacy rules when running the workflow. Now we do need a key, which will be our actual support ticket. And we're going to load type support ticket, which is down here. And we're going to go not list, not optional, and no query string. I can't even talk, wow. Okay, and the response type is fine. Everything else is fine. And when we call this, we're going to need to provide a support ticket, and then it's going to do the following things. We're going to go data, make changes to the actual support ticket that we just created, and we're going to change the hot link, okay, to be calculate random string. It's going to be this exact same thing that we did in here. And the calculate random string will be 6 long, and copy. And then we're going to say generate a new one, but only when do a search for support tickets. Now we're going to look for all the support tickets that have ever been created, and we're going to say hot link equals this support tickets, so AP support tickets. I should have actually updated this. Instead of support ticket, I'll write A P, which means it's part of my API workflows, underscore support ticket. and I just want to make sure that my AP support ticket, I change its random string only when I look for all the support tickets, and I'm going to look for all of them with the same hot link as the one I send in. And if I find more than one, then I'm going to regenerate the random string here. Okay, leave a comment in the chat. I don't know if you guys understood or not this particular updating and making sure that the hot link is unique. But if you want to generate your own unique IDs, I have run into problems where, and I mean, there's like literally a 1 in 2 billion chance that this happens, but it did. And yeah, so when you have two unique IDs that are the same, you're gonna run into a little bit of a problem. I was very, very confused, but yeah. So now we create its hot link, and then we have to trigger custom events. We have to schedule an API workflow for to update its hot link. The scheduled date could be right now. I know right now sometimes doesn't work, so some people like to go plus seconds 1 or 10 or whatever. You can set to ignore the privacy rules here as well. And the AP support ticket will be the result of the created step. Now, something to note is when you say result of step 1, Bubble will absolutely wait until this flow is done running to start this flow right here, because Bubble tries to run all of these in parallel as much as possible, and sometimes that gets buggy. And we can't run this in parallel because we can't run the updated link with no support ticket if this guy here maybe I'll give you a little bit of a better explanation of this here. It's very, very important because I run into I have to help a lot of people who build these workflows not understanding that things are not run sequentially always. So Bubble, for speed purposes, tries to run as many of these steps as they can that don't rely on previous steps. This makes it rely on a previous step, so make sure that the step 1 is run before step 2 is run. But it is possible that sometimes if you go custom events, schedule a custom event, and we do the same thing actually as here, but instead of saying result of step 1, we look for the actual hot link, right? Or we look for the let's say last created. Okay, we do a search for, some people will do this, I've seen this happen, support ticket, and they'll do support ticket, and then they'll just go last item. Okay, so they're gonna say create it and then take the last one and run through, and sometimes it works and sometimes it won't. It depends on who's faster, right? On who's faster to trigger. If this is fast enough that Bubble creates it quickly and then triggers the API workflow and finds the last item in the API workflow, it's going to be, of course, after 1 second that it's going to trigger on the server side. If that piece of data doesn't exist yet, it's going to take the previous one, and that's really not what you want. You want to make sure that you're waiting for this step to finish, and this is how you do it. Okay, super, super, super important. I can't stress this enough. If you're running workflows like this and one workflow is reliant on a piece of data existing that you created or modified, you have to use result of step. So it'll make your workflow take a little bit longer, of course, but it'll make sure that it grabs the right piece of data. Okay, that's part of Bubble's core. That's very, very important. Okay, next we have to upload files, right? We have to add a screenshot, optional. So message is fine, name and email is fine, select a category. We're gonna move this over to select a category, and then we're gonna go upload a file. So what are we gonna need? Uploader. We can use a file uploader, and we can say, hey, click to upload a file. You can put it here. In terms of design, I don't really like the design here, but I'm just gonna leave it like this for now. And then we're going to go right click, start edit workflows, and start edit workflows will allow us to go. Actually, in this case, no. In this case, we're going to go submission, create a new, We're going to go boom, files, and we're going to go add file uploader's value. Okay. And we're going to test that. File uploader A's value. Okay. Now we're going to create a new one, and I'm going to show you what that does specifically. Pretty important, especially since the last update. To make sure that your file size is set, that you have a max. It's automatically at 50, but now with the max file size at, I think it's 50. Is it 50 gigabytes or 5 gigabytes? Let's go to where do I find that? Settings, and then version. version 6, 5 gigabytes. Sorry, 5 gigabytes, 50 would have been excessive, but 5 gigabytes is still a lot, and it can hang your server. You can get denial of service attacks by people who try to upload really, really big files often and stuff like that. I'm sure there's some handling built in the back end that we don't have to worry about, but setting a max file size is a good idea. Okay, and then we're going to upload this file, and then this file is going to get attached to submission through our workflow saying files, add file uploader A's value. Okay, that's just one file though. And we can actually use a multi-uploader as well if you want. Multi, which I prefer. Where is it? Oh, I don't have it here yet. I think it's here. Add plugin, multi, file. That's to-dos. Where's Bubbles? I thought it was native. Here, I thought it came with it. I haven't used it in a while, so I'm not sure where it is. It's going to be inputs, obviously. There it is. Multi-line input, file uploader, multi-dropdown. Where? That's embarrassing. That is embarrassing. I thought it was a plugin by Bubble that allows you to upload files. So let's go File, and let's find Bubbles. Downloader. Can anybody help me out in the chat if you guys have seen this? There it is, multi-file uploader and drop zone. There it is. So it's installed, come here, and we can use that as well. So if you'd rather use a multi-file uploader, I like it a lot. There's some things I don't like about it, but basically you can click on it or drop files directly from your computer screen. And then we're gonna go start, in submission. Instead of grabbing file uploader A's value, we're going to grab multi file uploader A's value. Okay, and we're going to go set list instead of add. Doesn't really matter, but we're going to do that. Then we're going to run the hook, and then it'll be done. Okay, so this one can now be made small and put here. I would really, really like to redo the design here for you guys because this is really, really ugly and it's bad, probably bad UX, but we're going to leave it like that for now. Preview. And now we have to test. I had to explain to somebody recently, does this work? We're gonna upload a picture of this dog of mine, and then message, and then submit. Oh, please. Oh, right, and then we have to reset all the inputs. Element actions, reset inputs, just so that we know that the message has been submitted. And then when we go to data app data and we go to support tickets, we'll see the different ones that have been created. Awesome. It did not upload a file though, so I'm not sure why not. So let's go step by step and just make sure that it's setting the list properly. Yeah, there it is. So you'll notice, and this is what I wanted to talk about in terms of files. When you upload a file, the file doesn't sit on your Bubble app. It sits in the AWS servers and is linked to your app and is right here. S3 Amazon, AppForest, UF. Here's more stuff of where it is, and it ends with .jpeg. And because it's read with .jpeg, you can actually use that to show your. I don't think I don't think you can see the bottom line. Barely. It says .jpeg. I can't scroll any lower, but so yeah, you upload a picture and you can use it as a picture, and then it reset everything, and we know that we can resubmit. Okay, good UX would be to put a pop-up, thanks for your submission, we'll be back in touch soon, and then put a timer to make sure that the users, it's called a cost, and if you add cost, it reduces the capacity for denial of service attacks. If you come here and if I'm a malicious user and I write a script to just add a bunch of messages and keep pumping them out, that's going to seriously affect the performance of my app for other users, because I overload the servers basically, especially if I'm uploading large files constantly. And I'm not saying users are malicious. I'm saying as a developer, we have to be conscious of that and make sure that our apps are as difficult to attack as possible. So what I would do is I would add a timer to make sure that nothing happens if a thing is submitted in under whatever seconds. But that brings us to the important point that is it? I'm sorry. How do I pronounce your name? Is it Javon, or I'm not sure about the background for this, but the point was a bit off topic. But how do I decide what's minimum viable and what's important? And I think that this is definitely minimum viable, and then you add the cost after you've proven your concept, because malicious users will always be a percentage of your user base, and this if you have a small user base, you'll have fewer malicious users, right? So that's it. We just created a simple contact form with submission update and making sure we pre-populate this with our email address. What? I don't know why it allowed me to create it with super inside the app, but now it's saying that's not it's Javon. Okay. Yeah, so what's minimum and what's important? Okay, now we have our contact form. Now we just need to be able to pass it on to the admin, and then the admin should be able to see a two-sided messaging app. And we're going to build that out underneath, and we're not going to hide it until we're done building it out. We can get rid of the backend workflows. So now layout page, okay, user starts ticket, yes, when they basically land on the page. The reason I said starts ticket is that I wanted to start from somewhere else for this particular use case, but I'll just adapt it. I'll adapt what I built here to the client instead of doing it live here, because it's a little bit more complex. Auto grab user URL, very important. Okay, so now we're going to talk about passing URLs. If I'm coming in from another page, okay, if I'm coming in from, say, I have no other pages that I can use, but I can create, because all the other pages have my client's personal information on it, but we're going to go Sandy2, and Sandy2 is going to just allow us to, is going to allow us to just pass some URLs here. Okay, so let's grab an input and let's go, this is like our fake URL. And then I'm just going to show you how to pass them from any other page. And we're going to say here, go to create support ticket. Okay. And now let's say I'm on the index page and I go to support ticket. I want to pass the URL. Let's say I'm on the products page and I want to, create a support ticket. As an admin, and I'm going to be talking to my developer, I want to know exactly as much information as possible without the user having to tell me. So in this case, we're going very, very simple. We're going just the URL, and the URL is going to help. And the URL is going to help me as a developer know what the sort of issues are. So when we do go to that page, we're going to go navigation, go to page, obviously. The destination will be contact, and the data to send, we don't need to send any data. I'm not going to talk about this or the usage of it. We're going to just send parameters to the page. Now, parameters are these guys right here. You can see that this is bubble.io/page, and that's where the actual URL for this page ends, except that this page displays very, very different information based on everything that comes after the basic part of the URL. So after this question mark. And this is called URL query parameters, and each parameter has a different value that can be pulled by your browser and used to do different things. So me as a developer, I want to basically see this, the page, so provenance, and we're gonna add another parameter. We're gonna go prov, and then we're gonna go get current URL, this URL. And we're just gonna send it, simple as that. Now I'm going to know when I land on the other page what URL I came from. Okay, so let's duplicate this tab here. Thanks for the guidance on form building. Do you think the resulting forms can be wrapped into a native app? The answer is yes, I do think so. There are still limitations with wrappers. I think that's the progressive web app space is definitely something that's in constant flux. My personal opinion is that the two giants, Google and Apple, are still sort of wondering what to do about it. And I think that Apple is actually banning progressive web apps from their platform, and they have to be built natively. I'm not sure if that's okay, I don't want to speak too much to this because of my lack of experience in the iOS domain. Do I think they could be wrapped in Android? Yes, I do. A really good place to start, or a person you might want to talk to, is the user called John Mark, who has a really good post, maybe the most popular one, about wrapping web apps, and maybe ask him the question. He will definitely have a much more thorough, better answer to give you on this topic. Okay, so I'm just going to dodge your question. I'm so sorry. I just don't have the expertise I think that you're looking for. But my answer to you in short form would be yes, I do think so. So now we're going to eventually hit preview here with a fake URL. Oh yeah, because I wanted to send a fake URL. I'm not sure. No, we're just going to grab the URL itself. And then we're going to go and question mark. Yeah, because we have to... I haven't really thought of that. Okay, for now we're just going to send the URL. Because when I build out my... I wish I could show you, but when I build out my apps, the URLs actually contain some information here. So I'll show you what I mean on the next page. So if I do this, we're going to send a key prof this URL. I'm going to show you immediately what that looks like. So it's going to go to contact, but it's going to add this entire URL, right? So version test sand2 and then debug mode equals true. So let's go to create a support ticket. And now you can see we have, okay, so this is encoded, right? And each of these represent a single character, %2f and %2f. So these are your backslashes. %3a is your double dot, and this makes for a very, very ugly URL. Correct? Correct. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean it up, and we're going to take this data and we're going to wrap it into the submission when we look at it. Okay, so we just want to mask this URL, and a really good plugin to do that is Copilots. Where's contact? Is Copilots? Is it by Copilot? I think so. But it's the browser plugin here. I just want to make sure that it is Copilot so I don't give credit where credit isn't due. But it's definitely one of the best plugins. Yeah, it is by Copilot. One of the better plugins on the platform. And what it's going to allow you to do is, I like to put it at the top left under my header because my header floats, and it will mess with the responsiveness of your app if it overlaying an element or if it's beside an element that's supposed to collapse or snap. So I always keep this area at the top empty. I put all of my plugins here along the top, and my header floats and covers them because it doesn't actually appear as anything, but unfortunately it does take up space. So here's browser A, and then when we click on, when the page is loaded, we're going to mask this URL. Okay, we're going to go plugins. We're going to go browser. No, it's not here. It's under element actions browser. And then we're going to go modify or replace a URL. Okay, these two do different things. You can read their documentation. And yeah, so we're going to just modify instead of replacing it, which is the masking, right? And the URL will be current page's name. Okay, we're going to go website, home URL, and then we're going to go, it automatically adds the slash, so then we can just go this page's name, right? Can we do that here? No? Why can't we do that? Huh. Okay, website, home URL, and then we're just going to go get, oh, that's why. Page name? No, we're just going to get data from, and we're going to get past segments as list, and we're going to pull item number. And I think we're going to pull item number 1, which is the name of the page, right? Javon, what do you recommend for the loading times for web pages and how to improve? I recommend shortest possible. How to improve is to make sure that your user knows that it's loading, to make certain elements appear faster, and then slowly add content. Okay, so Bubble already does a large chunk of that for you by making their repeating groups load after sort of the pages, you know, some visual elements have already started to be painted. These guys right here, plugins, every single plugin that you add, this is way too many, they're not they're not all gonna stay for the final version, but every single plugin that you add loads data, and I think it loads data. A lot of them load data before the actual page is loaded, because you have to go and look for the libraries and load them into the app. And I think the first step I would say is remove as many plugins as you can. Everything you can do in Native Bubble, do it in Native Bubble. Things you can't do in Native Bubble, but you could do in just HTML that are simple, learn how to do that, and only use plugins for stuff that is sort of necessary. I mean, I don't always follow my own advice. Like this browser thing I could do with JavaScript, which would be easier and quicker, but which would be easier on the page load, but not necessarily quicker on the page load. So if I were to remove this entire plugin and just do the masking with JavaScript, it would be quicker. So yeah, use fewer elements. And the next thing I would say is hide everything and make them appear when you need it, right? So I could show you in a single page. I can't show you a single page app. This is a single page app. It's like a hybrid. I have almost everything sits on D, and then all of the external pages like contact, connect, which is my login page, testimonials, stuff like that, all sort of shows up as external pages, but D is a single page app. And basically when you load D, you can't see anything. There's nothing on it. It just loads based on what you find in the app. And that's also something that's quite fast. I noticed that some people like to do this here button, okay, visible on page load, okay. And then they go, if something, then this element is visible false, okay. That's, I like to do it backwards. We could talk about the trade-offs. Kind of important. When you first load a page in Bubble, all of the elements that are hidden on page load, if I go like this and I go like this and I go not visible on page load, and when page is loaded, entire is yes, this element is visible, you're going to see it looks almost exactly the same. There's the page and it popped in like a hair of a second later, but it was hidden on page load, right? And that's how I like to build, because elements that are not visible on page load will literally not render it in your browser until they become visible based on what the server delivers. So if they are visible on page load, when you load the page, all of the text for them will be here, and then they will be hidden. So all that text needs to get loaded and then it'll be hidden. But if you say this element is not visible on page load, and then you show it based on a conditional, they'll load everything in your page that is static. So, you know, nice shapes and stuff to show the user. And then by the time your page is done loading, they'll start showing this. And then you can show the repeating group, and then you can show whatever. So just staggering that and hiding things initially, and then showing them based on conditions that you need them, will seriously improve the speed of your app. The next thing, the trade-off is when I refresh this, I think. If I refresh this, you're going to see, you're not going to see exactly this group right here. So when you're a developer and you're coming in, you're going to have to know what your layout is, and so you can see what's going on. If you know your app, it's fine. If you're working with a team, it's a little bit more difficult, because it is the most efficient way to do it. It's the fastest way to do it, but your team will look at this, and if they haven't built it out, and say, well, you know, if you're not naming correctly like this, and it's a mess, if it's not, there's no hierarchy or whatnot, it's going to be difficult for other people to work on your app. So that's the trade-off. Okay. If it's all visible on page load, then you can just click on whatever element and you know which one it is, right? But if it's not, some elements are a little bit difficult to find for other developers. If it's you, make everything invisible on page load and show it. That was a really long rant for no reason. For very little reason, I'm sorry. We can get back to this here. Okay, so now that we've submitted it, we want a messaging platform. Okay, so we take this and we go group. There's already a messaging platform on this particular app. We're going to build a new one. We're going to call it support messaging. We're going to make this the same size, relatively. And let's look at the settings here. It's max width of 100. So we just want to match the two, so that there's no serious breakage. And we want to go when, do search for no, current user's role is, oh no, it contains 0. Then this element is visible true. And yeah, you're laughing at the amount of time I invested into that answer, eh? I know it was quite a bit. So let's go height 500. And this one, if I click here and I just drag this down, it'll automatically bring it down to the end here. And now we have our little layout. Now, what we could do, because its width is 990, something smart to do would be to go 990 divided by 3. And then it's 330. I should have known that. I wasn't even thinking of doing the math. And let's put this here inside, and let's put it at width of 330. And this will load all of the messages that the admin has to answer. Okay, and then here we're going to put another group, and this one is going to show the actual messages. Yep. Right here. And then at the bottom, we're going to leave 55 pixels is fine for our reply. Okay, and what's going to happen, I'm just doing a quick layout for this right now. And what's going to happen is I'm going to go in and play around with it, and it's probably going to break, and then you guys are going to be like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. And that's probably what's going to happen, but stick around for all of the fun, and we're going to find out soon if that is the case. So let's go here, and let's go, we're gonna have some things in here, and this is just a basic layout, but I'm going to say messages. And then here we're going to have our actual message. Okay, so we don't need that right now. And we want it to be visible across devices. Yeah, we're not getting into that today, actually. We're just going to build it for desktop, and then maybe in another video I'll show you how I make it work for mobile, because you can't have messages showing. If you go on your Facebook Messenger, your WhatsApp, or your, I don't know, almost any direct messaging platform right now, you'll see that on desktop mode you can actually see the messages, and you click on one and it pops up in this blue thing right here. Or if you're looking at it on mobile, you have messages, you click on it and it changes screens. And for Bubble, you want to make it change screens by just showing one group or the other when the page width is less than a certain width. But right now we're just going to build it out for desktop and see how we can get it to work. So naturally we want it small. Heights, dynamic heights. So in essence, for one-page apps, you still use other pages, right? I just clone the nav bars and use different pages. I will watch again your great explanation. I am confused. Yeah. I'm also confused by my own explanation. It wasn't, it's live, so I didn't, when I do recorded videos, I do so many more takes, and that's why I prefer doing live videos, because it takes less time than to record them. And just developing takes me even less time than that, but this is quite important. So I did want to give it a go, but I might make a video actually explaining single page apps. There's so much stuff I need to do and I need to get on, but there's also so many things that I have to do, and I just don't have time for everything. You guys know how it is, right? So let's add it. So in essence, yes, I don't have a single page app, period. I always use other pages to remove complexity, because so the trade-off is from a developer perspective. If I put too much stuff on a single page, I have a very good machine right now. But if your machine, my computer is very, very fast and it is basically decked out. And still Bubble's editor can get a little bit slow if it runs out of RAM to be able to load all the elements into your browser's RAM, right? So it depends on which browser you use. I prefer Firefox. I find Chrome gets really bloated really, really fast. Firefox is a little bit more, a little bit faster, I find. But still, on my single page apps, sometimes it gets heavy. And I mean, my elements tree, goes for miles. Okay, much longer than this. And the other thing I do is I use a lot of reusable elements to fight this. But yes, in essence, I don't have one single page app. I always have multiple pages. Especially, I read somewhere, I don't know if this is entirely accurate, but the connect page is vulnerable to attacks, right? So you don't want that. necessarily on your single page as well. And it allows you to add cost just to that page, make it a little bit longer to load, and make sure that you have a timer on it and such. So I like to leave at least the login page separate, and you'll notice that a lot of apps do that. And some apps like Trello, if you log in with your email, you actually log in through Atlassian, which is their parent company. So it might allow you to do that as well. So yeah, the only, I don't have any single page apps. I always have a single page plus the supporting pages as well. And I think that's a really good way to build. The single page really helps because it's fast. It's so fast, but it gets bloated. The trade-off is the development gets bloated. Okay, so there's two really, really long explanations for no reason. You guys, maybe, you can ask questions and stuff, but I got to really learn how to answer them because otherwise these live streams will take forever. All right, 6 rows. Here we want definitely the name of the person, and then we want to be able to click on this. So if we want to click on something in a repeating group, the best way to do it is just go group. Cool video, great tutorial. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. It's always nice when you guys, put in the kind words. You take the time. I'm taking. How long has this live stream been now? Long, and it's just really, really nice when you guys take the time to drop some compliments there. It makes this thing feel worth doing, All right, so here's a group. Every time I build a repeating group, I almost always have a group that's the full width of the cell, because usually repeating groups, I want to click anywhere in the repeating group, and I want an action to happen, and you can't have just when this repeating group is clicked. So I have this here. The other thing it allows you to do is say when this group is hovered, and add a background color. Let's go white, and that's something you really, really want to do in all of your 71 minutes. Right. I think it's almost time for a break. In a few minutes, I'm going to go and refill my coffee and stuff. But I will be back. I need to finish this anyways today, so I'm going to do half of it with you and then half of it offline when you guys are all gone to bed. So here, very important to always have a group in your repeating group for both styling purposes and UX purposes. The repeating group is wonderful, but I can't click on the repeating group, so I always have a group that's just the full width and height of the cell that I can style. Okay, so we're gonna have that here, and then we're gonna have we're gonna have to select what we load, right? So we're gonna load support tickets, and hey, thanks, I appreciate it. And we're gonna do here this conditional flat color. Now it threw me off. Now I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have begged for people to start. I didn't mean you guys have to start writing thanks for the great video and stuff. I just meant that it means a lot to me when you do. Okay, don't feel forced to. Here we have, we're gonna load support tickets, right? So we're gonna do a search for, and we're gonna load every single one of them. Okay, support ticket, and this is where I'm gonna show you how the privacy rules kick in, because this is very, very important. So search for support tickets, and we're gonna look for what? Yes, sorry, not category support tickets. That's the option set, and then we're gonna go to support tickets. So one of the fathers of I forget who it was. I forget his name, which is really bad. So maybe I shouldn't tell the story. But he said there are only 2 things that are difficult about computer science, and those 2 things are it was like something like a RAM, when you overflow your RAM and crash your kernel. And the other thing is naming things. And you notice I just did that. I have support tickets, and then I have category support tickets, and I don't know which is which anymore, even though I built them within 71 minutes of each other, right? So naming things, very, very hard. Thanks. I really appreciate it. Guys, you guys are awesome. Are there only still 5 of you here? Best 5 ever, I have to say, from all of my live streams. I should start doing this more often, coming hanging out with you guys. So let's go here. We're gonna go body, sure, but we're gonna add we're gonna say we're gonna have to pass up the data. So now we're loading in our repeating group. Search for support tickets. We have them all here. We're gonna go vertical scrolling. Fine, row 6 is fine as well, because we're gonna keep this sort of message board this exact height. Okay, we're not gonna take all of the screen, because we're just gonna sort of leave it like this. And actually, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna leave it the height of a older phone. right? Just so I don't have to do too many changes after. Okay, and how am I going to do this? I'm just going to go here, and we're gonna, what do I have access to? 678, 667. I should have actually known that. So we're going to leave this at around 600. And that way, select first parent. Oh, no. This one is 600. Right now it's 500. Okay, so we're going to go 600. And then we're going to select its first parent. And then we're just going to drag down this guy right here. And it's going to automatically snap to 600. And so is the page. Excellent. And now we're going to grab this. And it's not going to be 600. It's going to be 2. And then I'm just going to drag it down to the full width here. Okay, so now we have those slightly bigger cells. I like that because then we have room to add a little bit of the message. And then we're going to go support ticket on top. We're going to go... Yes, sorry. So when we're loading them, then we're going to go type of content here. We're going to go support ticket. And then we're going to go data source is... another question, do you use Bubble for your blogging page? No, I do not. And SEO. SEO is tricky in Bubble. SEO is very tricky in Bubble. I'm no expert in this, and I'm going to, again, field your question. A lot of people have asked on Bubble for SEO ninjas and how it affects it, and I got into it for a little bit about header tags, especially when Bubble started allowing header tags and that kind of stuff for SEO. Basically, I think backlinking is the strongest SEO tool you have with Bubble because a lot of the other internal tools don't work as well as standard tools. But once again, I'm not an SEO expert, okay? I'm really not, so... once again, I'll refer you to the forums. The only things I know about Bubble's SEO is what I learned in the forums. What do you use for blogging? I don't have a blogging page. I just have a YouTube for you guys, and yeah, the rest is I just make video tutorials. I think text is an interesting medium, but I think it's much less engaging. I mean, here you guys are asking me questions, and I think the best way to provide value is to listen to your client, right? So you listen to your client, you provide value, and here I can in real time get your questions and then provide whatever value I can. In this case, I'm sorry, I can't talk about SEO and provide that much value, but I can tell you in real time where you can go find out about it, which is the Bubble forum. Just type in SEO, read all of those posts. That's basically what I did, and you might learn things that I don't know because I haven't actually done it in a while. But thanks for the refresher. I do need to go check that out shortly. All right, so back to work. Support tickets, data source, current cell support ticket. Okay, so now we are loading all the support tickets, sending them up to this background here. The blogging page of your Bubble app. I have a blogging page? Where? Please specify. Okay. Text, parent group support tickets, and we want the name, right? Name placeholder. We can use name placeholder. The other thing, okay, I can show you another trick here, okay? Is not empty will return a yes, no, okay? And then if I go formatted as text, I can add a text if it's yes, okay? So do we have is empty? Is easier. Okay, name placeholder is empty. If it's empty, okay, then I can show something. If it's not empty, then I can show something else, okay? And since we're just loading it from the input, it'll never be empty, so this is slightly dumb. I thought if it's preloaded, then it doesn't need to go into the email placeholder, so we should load the current user's name. But since we're doing on submission, just grab that data anyways, whether it be you know, a logged in user or another email. We can go parent support tickets name placeholder and it'll show up automatically. Okay, and the other cool thing that you could do is add a little bit of weight to it. So you could go either this, bold, and then break bold here. And or you could do that directly in the rich text editor. Just select it and go bold. It'll do the same thing. And then here we want it unbold, we want dynamic data, we want the message. Okay, now this we could add a picture, you know, the creator's picture if it exists, but in our case I don't think I want to. Now we're loading support tickets, and here's the message, and I'm able to do a number of different things here. Now I want to, okay, thinking this through, I have a support ticket and I want to be able to start a conversation for this particular support ticket. Okay, and that's what we're going to do after the break when I come back. Yeah, when I come back. So give me like 10 minutes to go make some coffee and stuff, and I'll be right back. You like that? Easy. All right. I think I'm good to go again. And I realized it would break that I totally forgot to finish the URL tracking that I wanted to do. So we're going to work on that next. So we had said when we were coming from Sandy 2 into contact that we were going to load the actual URL from here, right? So this is the URL that we have, and it has a path parameter, a path query parameter called URL query parameter. Let's get the vocabulary right, called provenance, and that loads a URL. So I just want to store that for myself so I can see where the user was when they submitted the bug report, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to do some masking on page load, which we did not do. Oh, we did do. We just did not test. Okay. And it's going to basically mask that URL so it's not as ugly. And we no longer have that workflow, but basically it's going to go blah, blah, blah. / version test is always there when it's there. It's not counted as a path parameter. I don't know if you guys actually know what path parameters are, so we're going to put our bubble path parameter up here just for debugging purposes and delete it at the end. So if I go get data from page URL and path segments as list, and I'm just going to display all of them, okay? Yeah, and I think if I just leave it here, it's going to display all of them and separate them with a comma, right? So let's go ahead and reload this page, and it should mask the URL here exactly. So we're just going to end up with /contact, and the user will never see all of the additional information that makes it look weird and will not be able to actually copy it either. So they will be able to if they pause, if they're able to stop the page load and get the original URL, and they will be able to if they go into their history or if they copy current URL from their browser. But for 98% of users, it'll be a lot cleaner and a lot easier to see. Okay, so /contact, and then I'm going to pull the actual query parameter on submission. So when I go to submit, see what I mean? You can't see the stuff that's invisible on page load. So I have to go in here and actually show it. And if it's called group B, then I'm going to get lost very, very fast. Only two things difficult about computer science, and one of them is naming things. So let's go to support ticket and let's add a new field that's going to be called, it's going to be a list of texts, and it's going to be, we're going to call it auto pull info. Okay, just for now. Naming things, I mean, if I do it fast, I get lost in 6 months. And if I take the time to actually name things relevantly, then it helps a lot. We're going to add, and we're going to go get data from page URL. And this time we're pulling a parameter, not a path. And the parameter is going to be called prov. And it's going to look through our URL, and it's going to look for an n, and then PROV and equal. And it's going to take everything that's after the equal all the way up to the next n or to the end of the line. And it's going to store it in auto pull info. So now we're going to auto set the different info that I need, including provenance. And then if I need other stuff, I can go auto pull info and add, and we're going to go, current user. And I'm just going to put in their unique. Do I have a hot link for them? Or do the hot links only exist for the profiles? Yeah, so we're going to pull the unique ID of the user. And then we could pull other stuff, whatever I need to, depending on the stage or the app. But for now, we're just going to load the URL and the current user's unique ID so that we can auto grab user URL. And then the ticket number will be the hot link that I generated. Okay. User can add message now, screenshot. Yes, sort of. And submit ticket. Yes. And next we were going to work on receiving an email. In Bubble, it's very easy, especially if you don't need to set up your own SendGrid account. You could just go on the schedule API workflow support hot link, blah, blah, blah. We can schedule another one. And let's go ahead and create it first, where I will send to the admin. We're going to add a field type called scene. So let's go to our support tickets here, and let's go create a new field, and let's go scene, and this is going to be yes, no. And again, that's not what I would name it usually, but scene, yes, no, we're going to go to no. Okay, not seen. And the admin, when I post my first message from the admin to the user, or an additional message from the user to the admin. We're going to change scene to yes. Okay. And if we don't do that, then we want to run something in the backend, which is going to send an email to the admin saying there is a new email. So let's go with new support ticket and then email or notify. Okay. And it doesn't have to be public. We can ignore manual definition, and we're going to go, what is it called? AP, always AP first if it's in here, because if you add AP, how do I explain this easily? Yeah, maybe that's a little bit something for next time. Support ticket. You'll know if you don't add AP. Try doing not AP and adding a key that's just the exact name of the data type, and you'll see how quickly it gets confusing. So I always add AP when I build stuff in the backend for my keys that I'm trying to pull variables to. Okay, so the type will be a support ticket. Okay, and that's it. And we're gonna go only when AP support ticket. So this guy, it's gonna pull it in, and then it's gonna check if it's red scene is no. Okay, if it's no, then I want to send an email, custom events. No, I want to send email, super easy, to whatever admin email. Okay, and whatever you want, different reply to, but the sender name will be AP support tickets name placeholder, and it's going to no, that's not true. That's not true. The sender name will be this app name and support. You've got a new support ticket to take care of, or something. And then you can add some information in the email if you need it, like the name placeholder and the message. And this will go to the email that you specify in the to admin email. So admin email right now, it just lists it like this, but it'll be the actual owner of this particular app, which I'm not going to put obviously in my live stream. So support ticket names placeholder and support tickets message. And then you can say, you can add a link to this website home URL / automatically contact, because that's the name of the page. And then if I'll eventually update the hot links to automatically load the actual message in here, but I'm not going to do that in this particular live stream here. I'm going to do it later. So now what we have is a new backend workflow that we can trigger 15 minutes later, and only if the scene is no. Okay, so you come here and you say submission is clicked. We also schedule a API workflow that is called new support ticket notify, scheduled date current date time plus minutes 15. Nope. Plus hours 0.25. Yes, good. And AP is result of step 1. So we schedule this plus 15, and then by the time it hits the server in our backend, it'll check if the scene is no. If the scene is no, they'll send the email. And the reason I'm doing this is because I don't necessarily want my admins to be during their work hours. They see a message pop up, they deal with it, they close the support ticket, and then they get an email 15 minutes later saying, hey, you got a new support ticket, which is just going to be confusing, right, to them. And then message, and we basically want to use just body. We want a second line just so I could see from a design perspective. There you go. We want to cut this to as small as we can, like this, whatever. And we're going to cut off the content if it's not tall enough, and that'll automatically shrink it to this height. Okay, and then when I click on it, I'm going to want to load the messages in. Now this is getting to be a really long live stream, right? So I think that I may finish it later. Let's see if we can get just the layout done. Okay, so let's go repeating group. Let's go here. And this is going to be our actual messages. And the layout will be just a header. In the header, I want to show, definitely want to show the name of like the support ticket number and the name of the person and stuff like that on the top. And then I want to load the individual messages that go into each support ticket down here. Now, I did a video about I'm trying to think about what's the best way to do this. I did a video about divorcing data types and backwards linking. So if you guys want to check that out before the next part of this live stream, which I'm getting really tired and I think I'm going to do basically tomorrow. If you guys want to hop on, I'll be doing that in tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening. And yeah, so thanks to everybody who came on and watched and commented and asked questions. It really made this live chat very interesting. And I think that tomorrow we're going to be finishing up this this whole messaging part so that your administrators can receive messages for each support ticket and discuss things with the user privately and securely. Okay, so yes, once again, thanks a lot for joining us, and we will catch you next time.